Welcome to Tales About Edinburgh with David Basson. I am your host, David Basson. Now I want to tell you one of my favourite folk stories here in Edinburgh, the Wynd murder. But before we get into that, I want to explain the format that I'm going to tell the story in. Now this all came during the COVID lockdowns. When the lockdown hit, me and the other tour guides, we lost our jobs. Now to make some money, I started doing videos which I'd sell off to whoever would buy them, mainly friends and family. Then I started doing virtual tours. That's where I'd walk around with my camera out in front of me. Now I'd do that across Zoom, and they were cool, but then when the lockdowns really hit and I wasn't really allowed to go outside, that's when I started doing presentation style virtual tours. And they did work really well, but I really wanted to do a virtual horror tour. And I found the presentation style wasn't quite working. I mean, I could take videos, I could take photos, but people were in the comfort of their own homes, and me, I was just behind a desk. It really didn't have that immersion that you get on a live horror tour, where you're taking people around supposed haunted sites and they get the creeps. Oh dear God, is there a ghost watching me? It just didn't work that way. So I thought, how do I really immerse people into these stories? What about if there is something around the corner that could jump out at them? I started thinking about the video games I love to play, the horror games. And then I thought, what about I make Edinburgh into a video game? And I created a virtual horror tour of Edinburgh, where I'd take people around the streets, I'd tell them the stories, and I'd ask them questions. And if they got the question wrong, there'd be a jump scare. Now I want to tell you one of my favourite stories on my live horror tour, which is actually not in my virtual tour, which I still do to this day. But I've set it up just for this video. I want to tell you the tale of the Wynd murder. Now stay around to the end if you want to hear some of my commentary on the story. I hope you enjoy. Now this is the way I heard the tale. Mr. and Mrs. Guthrie, they live down Wynd. Mr. Guthrie is a politician, and Mrs. Guthrie is a bored housewife. When the husband was out for long days, she started going to the local pubs to have a bit of fun. As time went on, she got a bit more daring, and she started bringing men home. It actually became a badly kept secret. If you're bored, check out Mrs. Guthrie. She's got services. Now one day Mr. Guthrie came home early and found his wife in bed with another man. So he did the very logical thing of strangling her to death. And the next day he reports his wife missing. And the locals think she's just run away with one of her many boyfriends. The story picks up again 21 years later, when a locksmith moves into the apartment just above. He hears about the abandoned apartment below him, so he decides, what about he go have a look? He'll break in. When he gets into the apartment, he sees that the place is covered in dust. He spots a dinner table that's all nicely set up with cobwebs everywhere. Then a ghost appears at the back of the hallway. And against his best judgment, he follows that ghost into the Guthrie's bedroom. That's where he discovers the corpse of Mrs. Guthrie, laying there for 21 years. Now after the locksmith found the body of Mrs. Guthrie, he ran like hell. Now the next day, as the legend goes, he gets a knock on the door and it turns out to be Mr. Guthrie. And he asks him, do you know what's in the apartment just below you? And the locksmith says yes. Now one of the locals recognises Mr. Guthrie, calls the police, he's arrested, and he goes on trial, and the judge claims, you know what, Mr. Guthrie suffered enough. I mean, his wife was adulterous, and just lets him off the hook. That's the version of the story I heard. Since the first telling of the story, I've heard other versions. Some don't include the locksmith, some don't even include the ghost. Some say he actually just slept next to the body for 20 years. That's the thing about these stories, they're passed down from generation to generation, and you don't know how true they are. In fact, we don't even know if this event happened at all, if there's any truth to it. But it's part of the folklore of the city. And in a way, it is part of the history. I mean, if it's a tale that's been passed down from generation to generation, it's worth telling. Now, also in the terms of the ghost. Now, I personally don't believe in ghosts. I mean, apparently Bell's Wynd here is haunted by Mrs. Guthrie. And even though I don't believe in ghosts, doesn't mean I don't want to. I mean, if I'm on a horror tour, I want to think there might be a ghost around the corner about to jump scare me. I want those thrills. And as long as when I'm telling these stories, I feel as long as the tour guide, like as I do, is doing the dance of words, like the legend is, or it's been passed down through generations, or I'm going to tell you a story that I've heard in many pubs, as long as it's sort of prefaced with, yeah, I know the story can be full of it, but just run with it. Let's have some fun. I think there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you don't watch a Marvel movie and think, oh, there's no way Tony Stark could have built that Iron Man suit out in the desert. You just run with it. You have the fun. And even when I'm on these horror tours, especially if I'm going, say, underground, quite often I'm thinking to myself, I don't believe in ghosts, I don't believe in ghosts, I don't believe in ghosts. Just to sort of try to calm myself. But really, I'm there to be scared. Well, that's the tale of the Bell's Wynd murder. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe, and comment below as well. Catch you again.